That's all it was.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Before I Do, the show that shares with you everything that should be done in dating and relationships. If you are dating, if you are engaged, if you are not sure exactly what the whole marriage life is like, we are here to help facilitate courageous conversations on dating and relationships and everything related to long-term spouse and partner fulfillment.
Yes, fulfillment. You have to say that a little bit slowly. Yes. And remember that when we pose a question, a speak now or forever hold your peace question, we actually want you not to hold your peace. So we want you to let it out, let it flow. And so make sure you go to that chat area, that live chat, and post something and ask us a question or, hey, show us some love if it's something that's hitting home for you. We want to hear from you. So welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much again. And this is Wednesday, June the 14th, right? June the 14th. This is Father's Day week. So we want to first of all start by wishing all of the fathers an upcoming great Father's Day, and also want to give a shout out to all of you all for tuning in. Those of you who tuned into our series last month, focusing on healthy boundaries, which actually led into our topic of discussion for tonight, which is forgiveness. And Charmaine, know that you just came out of a really great workshop with a group in regards to forgiveness. And so it is one thing that we don't see talked about enough in dating and relationships is forgiveness. And how do we navigate that within some of our romantic relationships? Obviously, it's something that comes up in our familial relationships with the individuals that we're in the family relationships with. But there seems to be this challenge when it comes to forgiveness and the recognizing of red flags. When a person makes a mistake, when we see that they have certain challenges, when do we stay and practice resilience? Do we walk away? And so it really creates this dynamic where it really allows us to have this conversation as it relates to how we navigate forgiveness in relationships and dating.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, if you want to have a conversation, if you have a big group, right? And one of the fastest ways to get rid of people is talking about forgiveness, because people don't want to hear that.
Right.
People want that. Forgiveness is a journey. It requires work, and it requires multiple steps. It requires huge amount of patience, and really, to be in a place to forgive someone else, it really requires you to dig deep, for you to really audit your own forgiveness journey and process, and to know that it really is individual work.
Absolutely. Yes. And that is really important, because a lot of people have the perception that forgiveness is for other people. And forgiveness is actually for you, first and foremost. It is an individual decision. It is an individual work. And so tonight our topic is, should I forgive them? We're talking about forgiveness. And you all know, if you've been listening to the show, we always like to make sure that we start with equal footing. And that starts with a definition. That starts with definition. So when we talk about the definition of forgiveness, forgiveness is defined as an intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. Ring the bell again for me, please. Removing all disdain you have towards someone or a situation. So again, you see this focus, right, on you as the individual making a decision when it comes to how you are going to continue to experience this person. When it comes to some of the things, feelings and emotions that you may be harboring towards them, some of your experiences with them, or even a situation. There are certain unhealthy relationships that we have with certain situations in our life that are really important for us to make sure that we're clear on navigating.
One of the things that, I did in this workshop just 2 days ago is really helping individuals to do this, to go through this process. And one of the things that I would ask them is, we all have this invisible list, right, of offenses, right? Things that are just this is the worst thing that anyone could ever do, say, be, operate in, etc. Right? And so I had them to write down the three worst things that, worst offenses or non-offenses or acts, right, that anyone could ever do. And then, okay, who are these three people in your life that you just find it very hard, like you don't know that you could ever forgive them because they have wronged you to no degree, right? And so who are these three individuals? So three things that to you, these are the worst offenses ever. Some people it's like, abusing children. Other people it might be rape, but whatever these acts are that you have, like, nope, this is the worst thing you can do. And these are the three individuals in my life who I struggle with. These are great things to think about. And then I like to ask, what are three of the worst things you've ever done? Three things, the worst things that you've ever said to someone. Because some of us, we've murdered people with our own words. You don't know the impact of our own words, right? And so when we talk about forgiveness, looking at self is one thing. Then thinking about the people in your life who've hurt you or caused some type of hurt. And then going back to what are the behaviors that you directly attach to, being some of the most major offenses one can do. These are three things. If you're listening, write them down in your journal. It's a great start to where your principles are and those things that you probably operate in a lot of judgment in. And those will be the primary areas that it will probably be very hard to forgive someone.
And this, Charmaine, goes hand in hand with the conversation that we had last month talking about boundaries. Because when you talk about boundaries and forgiveness, those things are usually informed by your experiences.
Yes.
So when we talk about, again, some of the barriers to forgiveness, they are usually caused by some of our experiences during our childhood. As we get into dating and into relationships, there are certain deal breakers. There are certain things that maybe we will forgive. But, and it's very important, as Charmaine mentioned, that you make a list of those things.
Yes.
Part of the challenge is we have this individual list and these expectations that are unspoken that we hold people to, that we have not been clear about. And it's not necessarily being overtly clear with the person. It's us being clear with ourselves.
Yes.
It's us being honest about what our standards are, us being clear about exactly what it is that we are hoping to even get out of a relationship, what we are expecting from other people, and making sure that we have that in mind.
And holding them to our level of maturity. Hello. Let me ring the bell for myself. Okay. Sometimes we are upset with people who are not at a psychosocial developmental. Oh, I said it, y'all. I said it. They are not at a developmental, level that we function and operate on. If you've gone through some stuff in your life, okay, those lessons have caused you to mature. You have a level of maturity in those areas, right? And so now in your maturity, are you holding them to that same level of expectation? Or are you realizing that, no, you're called to be mature. You're called maybe to advise them, to support them, to help them. But it is quite possible that when we find ourselves so irritated, so frustrated with people, sometimes it's because, you know what? You're holding them at a level of developmental maturity that they have not yet reached. So now you have to go back to the drawing board. I had a woman to tell me in that workshop that, I don't really have an issue with forgiveness, and some of the people who kind of, frustrate me, I just kind of keep my space and distance. And I had to tell her, oh, no, no, no. You have graduated, which means that now you possibly are being called up to mentor and coach other people. But what if they're older than me? Well, guess what? What if you are the only person who will ever tell that person the truth about how you experience them?
Yeah, and we live in a world, in a society right now where it's easier for us to just walk away from people who are toxic, from jobs that stress us out, and not be honest about our experiences. And this isn't to say that you should stay in relationships or jobs and things that are not pouring into you in positive ways. But it is to say that sometimes people persist in behaviors that are unhealthy because no one has taken the time to really inform them of how people experience them. Yes. So especially in dating and relationships. And again, we understand that not every situation people are going to be ready and wanting to hear exactly the truth about themselves. But it is important that when you are in a good, healthy place, and if it is being unctioned upon you, to make sure that you're clearly communicating that so that they're not going off and then wounding somebody else.
Yeah. And so one thing we want you to do is audit. What is your forgiveness process like? Have you built the muscle? Are you building the muscle, or are you missing opportunities? Are you stacking up dead bodies in the street? And what I mean is, you're in a relationship, you got a friend violates your boundary or whatever, and you cut them off, and then you cut your cousin off, and you cut your brother off, and you cutting your coworkers off, and guess what? The bodies are stacking up in the street. If you keep cutting people off and you are not willing to do the work to recover how are you going to build the muscle? And the biggest challenge that we have with clients is where we tell them your capacity to love is largely dependent upon your capacity to forgive.
Absolutely. So when we talk about forgiveness in dating and relationships, it promotes vulnerability. So despite you being hurt, you becoming the bigger person, when we know that's becoming to be a dirty term right now, it's being the bigger person. It allows you to really control your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions towards your partner when they offend you. So remember, most people often respond with resentment, withdrawal, or anger, but the power of forgiveness is that it helps you to become more accepting of human tendencies to make mistakes and to think more positively about them. So just as Charmaine mentioned, you won't have these unrealistic expectations for people because people are flawed. People have issues, people have challenges, people have baggage, and the real challenge is being able to find the individuals or situations that you have been called and anointed to actually be there. Newsflash, stress and challenges are a part of life. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what it is that you want to do. You are going to experience some uncomfortable and some difficult situations. But without that, there is no growth. Without that, there is no advancement. But it's being able to identify the right places and spaces and individuals that you need to be in partnership with to help you grow.
Yes. So the biggest thing that can kind of make forgiveness a hard thing is expecting the person to have to earn it. They don't deserve my forgiveness because they didn't earn it. They haven't done anything to show me that they have earned it. Ouch. And that is a hard thing, right? Especially when the individual is still behaving the same way. They're still operating in the same mindset. They're still their hands and their feet. They're still doing things that are, offensive and below the line, crossing the line. And so, man, they don't deserve my forgiveness. But again, the first step into really understanding true forgiveness is to know that it is an individual work. It is you making a choice to release, right? To not hold on to resentment and all of those things that we described in the definition.
You're tuned into Before I Do. Tonight we are talking about should I forgive them? Our Speak Now question of the night. We only have one because we only need one. And this is a very, very hot topic when it comes to forgiveness. Does forgiveness always include forgetting?
Come on, the other F word.
Why or why not? Now, want to drop this bombshell on you all because just so you all know, there are certain things that we hear in church or hear people say, and we attribute it to it being in the Bible, and it is not in the Bible. The Bible does not say forgive and forget.
Nope.
The Bible does not say forgive and forget.
Stop repeating that.
Yes, the Bible does talk about God casting our sins into the sea of forgetfulness and things of that nature. But the bottom line is when we talk about forgiveness, the question on the floor is, should it always be in partnership or in tandem with forgetting?
And so let me tell you, let's talk about the body and the brain, right? When it comes to, when we have experienced a trauma an offense, a breach of our boundaries. Someone just really like hurt you. I don't know, maybe the ex-wife, she blew up your car, she burned all your clothes, right? And I mean, or just use the children as leverage, right? To really, get at you or whatever. These breaches of these offenses can be really tough. But the reality of it is, will you forget those? We are hardwired to remember things for our own safety and protection. So the reason why it's hard for us to forget, because literally now that experience that the person had with you, if you were the offender, now the person remembering is a part now of their alarm system. It's a part of their security system. So the brain doesn't let them forget, because when similar behavior, when a similar environment, when similar actions start to show up, the alarms start to go off and the body starts to say, danger, warning, warning. We've been here before. We've had this experience and it didn't end well. So a lot of times those reminders, they're there as safeguards. And so can we rewire that thinking? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. But the forgiveness journey is a little bit different, because in the way that we remember, we're able to shape how we remember, to shape what lessons were learned and how they were a teacher for you to help you get better, and so that you can move forward in a healthy way.
So our Speak Now question of the night is, does forgiveness always include forgetting? Why or why not? Be sure to place your question be sure to place your comment in the chat. We are going to take a really brief commercial break and we'll be right back with more Before I Do. Everyone, welcome back to Before I Do. Tonight we are talking about, should I forgive them? We are discussing forgiveness, and our Speak Now question of the night is, does forgiveness always include forgetting? Why or why not? We got a couple of comments that are coming in. Basim says, my relationship ended a divorce and shows love. Patrice says that that experience is a good teacher. Absolutely. And so one of the important things to remember about forgiveness and also life lessons is that although we may not forget, it is important to ensure that we are utilizing that information to really inform us in a positive way as we move forward. If some of the things that you are harboring are preventing you in your relationships and in your current situations and circumstances, it may be that you have a skewed perspective or you are utilizing some of the things from the forgiveness or the way that you've experienced other people or situations in negative aspects when it comes to you being able to move forward.
Yeah, and when it comes to that, the question about forgiving and forgetting, and it being a teacher for you, it's not just about what you learned about them. Oh, well, it taught me that they were horrible and they were this and they were that. No, what did it teach you about you? We don't ever want to miss this process, right? They might have showed up not as their best self, not as their most healthy self, but how did you show up, right? And so I'm sure there was growth in the process at some point in the conflict. All of our relationships will have some point of conflict, the deeper, the more intimate the relationship is. But what are you learning about you, and how are you growing through those stages and phases and things like that? And so, yeah, we don't want you to miss that opportunity of forgetting, right? Man, maybe, they would take me to the dark place, right? But, as time persisted, as time moved forward, I was better able to maintain my emotional integrity, my physical integrity, and to set boundaries and to mature in some of those areas.
And to be clear, especially when we're talking about dating and relationships, not every transgression or issue is going to be an offense that you are going to be able to move past and continue on with the relationship, to be clear about that. And only you can make that determination as it relates to what those things are. But know that forgiveness is going to be an important part of if you move forward and how you do so. So forgiveness is important for a myriad of different reasons. There are a lot of physical and mental benefits of forgiveness. And so knowing that relationships can enjoy forgiveness, we want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons of why forgiveness is important in a relationship.
Absolutely. And I will say this too, that, people sometimes think that forgiveness means you get an automatic reset.
Right, exactly.
Forgiveness does not mean that you get a reset and you now get to come back into my physical space, my emotional space, back into my life. Forgiveness does not mean this person gets a reset.
Patrice said, God sent y'all because I'm the cutoff queen. Burn the bridge, shut the door, pray from a distance. God is yet working on me. Ring the bell for Patrice. Patrice, thank you for your transparency on that. Absolutely. And there are certain people that, again, that is their method. That is the way that they protect themselves. And again, there are certain people where you have to do that. But we have to be careful that doesn't become the way in which we navigate all difficult situations or individuals who may be wanting to grow. Right. But certain people, again, because of some of the challenges that they brought with them, it has now become a part of their norm. And it is now functional dysfunction, where it is not healthy, but they persist in it because it's all that they know, or it's something that they've been doing for a specific period of time, and no one has really sat down and talked to them. And as Charmaine mentioned, some of us have been called and anointed to have those courageous conversations with people to let them know exactly how people are experiencing them.
All right, Patrice, so we're going to let you know now, there does come a time where you do have to gift yourself with space, right, and time so that you can do your healing, you can do that work. However, again, when you talk about burning the bridge, the challenge with burning the bridge is, what if, again, this person is assigned to you? What if you were the only person in 20, 30, 40 years who's ever going to tell this person how you experience them? Do you know that there are people walking around, and especially for believers, I love to tell them this, that you're going to be upset because you're going to get to heaven and you're going to be mad that some of the people are there. And you're going to be looking like, wait a minute, you a hot mess.
How you going to be mad somebody made it to heaven?
How did you get here? And guess what? The Lord going to be like, guess what? I expected 3 or 4 of y'all, I assigned you to this person to help them mature, to help them grow, but you burned the bridge. So you cut them off, and guess what? Everybody else cut them off, and I'm not going to punish and penalize them for not being mature and not growing in this area, and they were completely ignorant. No one told them how toxic they were. No one told them how negative they were. No one told them how they behaved.
Absolutely.
So they never grew. They never matured.
That's right. So forgiveness is a big part of that. So when we talk about why forgiveness is important, number one, it provides stronger mental health and behavioral regulation. When you forgive, you are able to let go of resentment, of hate, of worry that you've been feeling. You also, studies show that it helps you to become less anxious, happier, calmer, and also more peaceful. Forgiveness, it positively impacts your mental health, which also improves your interpersonal relationships, including your relationship with the person that you are dating. Now, couples that regularly practice forgiveness, they have shown more behavioral regulation as far as being able to control themselves and their actions. And they also show positive motivation towards their partner, which means that instead of having resentful, hateful behavior or holding a grudge, they can truly let go of the situation. So it not only does that, but it also helps to maintain a positive relationship that involves less hatred, less punishments, and less hostility between the two people.
Absolutely. And number 2, it paves the way for emotional healing. And so several studies show that forgiveness can pave the way to emotional healing injuries. So it really helps you with closure, and that is a word I sometimes have issues with.
And can you share a little bit about why you have issue with closure? Because I think that's a really astute point that people need to understand about closure, what it is?
Well, I definitely, I really, really, really work with clients to really get to the why. Why do you need closure, and why does your closure need to look, feel, and sound like this one thing? A lot of times people will go back and they're trying to talk to individuals because I need closure, and they walk right into a trap. They walk right into an emotionally charged environment, an environment that they're not even ready to have an emotionally charged conversation. They sometimes don't prepare. They don't have the strategies. They don't follow the directions to have a courageous conversation. And so, yeah, some people says, but I needed closure. And then you find yourself, you done kissed them, and now you done hugged them, and you done slept with them, and now you are back in the web of this relationship because of closure. Well, maybe it was meant to be. No, you should have never put yourself back in that vulnerable environment all for the sake of closure, right? And so I think sometimes that can be misleading for some people in their healing journey.
Yeah, and that's a great example too, even when we talk about forgiveness, how we yield our power. Like we talked about forgiveness being about us. It's about the individual. It's the same thing with closure. You don't need another person to have closure.
At all.
What happens is that we set these expectations of this is what I need to have closure. And usually they involve the actions or the interactions with another individual. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're actually relinquishing part of your power and being able to actually gain closure. You get closure when you say you have closure. When you decide to emotionally release someone, when you decide to forgive someone, when you decide to let go of exactly the connections that are existing between you all, that's when you have closure.
Well, a lot of people want closure because they really want to know why.
Right.
That they are addicted because I have to know why. And let's be honest, a lot of times if this person is hurt, there's baggage, there's conflict, do you think they can really tell you their why? It goes back to, have they matured in this area? Are they even capable of doing what it is that you want from them, which is to tell, do they even know their why? And a lot of times that requires work. And if the relationship was a hard one to salvage, 9 out of 10 times, they cannot explain their why.
And you may not be the person that has been assigned to explore and help them find their why. Sometimes you are, maybe you're not. And you have to be careful that you don't fall into the trap again of now I'm emotionally reconnecting with someone that is unhealthy for me because I need to help them understand why they are the way that they are.
Or they told you their why and you just don't want to listen.
Absolutely.
All right, number 3.
So number 3 is forgiveness helps you to become more accepting. Acceptance is something that everyone seeks in their relationship or within their marriage. And one of the ways in which people feel loved is when they feel accepted for who they are by their partners, when their partners see and understand them, flaws and all. Forgiveness is the way to make your partner feel more accepted and ultimately more loved. When you forgive someone, what you are truly saying is that you accept and you love them even when they're not perfect, and you understand that they are at least capable of making mistakes. We can often put our partners on a pedestal, or because of the expectations that we have for them, when they don't live up to those things, now we are completely crushed and devastated without really acknowledging the fact that as humans, they are going to have a propensity for making mistakes. And so it's important for us to communicate to the person that our love for them is bigger than any mistake that they may make. And even though some of the mistakes that they may make may mean the end of the relationship, it doesn't have to mean that there has to be contention between us.
Absolutely. And so number 4 goes back to forgiveness is important because it helps us to let go of guilt and to create more trust. And so that thing about guilt, some people are like, well, I don't feel guilty. They the one who offended me, right? But what happens when you have violated yourself? Meaning you have done something to disappoint yourself. You have acted out of your own character. You have verbally abused yourself. You have not operated in your values, your morals, your principles, right? The guilt can show up, right? And so how do, when you learn to forgive others, it helps you to build that muscle to be able to forgive yourself. Typically, that is the most difficult step in forgiveness, is forgiving yourself.
Absolutely. Miss Patrice has a great question. We're talking about forgiveness tonight. And Miss Patrice says, I walked away. How long is the healing process? I've forgiven. I'm his sister. Hallelujah. So here's the thing. The forgiveness process can vary, but it seems like there is a challenge as it relates to your relationship and dynamic with your brother, because you said you're his sister. So the dynamic of that relationship and the way that you all interact may have shifted and changed.
Right.
So what we would challenge you to do is really take a look at what is important as it relates to what are some of the boundaries that need to be set in place as it relates to how you all are going to interact, and what are some things that you need in order to be able to be healthy and whole while still interacting with that person. And so she says she is done. She's complete with that person. Now, here's the thing. That's your brother. So you're never going to be completely done. And I know some people like lies you tell. Absolutely. But you know, family is family. But the question is, again, there are certain family that, again, that we may not allow to babysit our children. There's certain family that we don't allow to be in our home. There's certain family that we may not borrow money, but they're still family. And they may not like the boundaries that we have set in place, but it doesn't mean that we love them any less. And so it's really about helping to identify what it is that you need when it comes to your interactions with your brother in order to really engage with him and to see what exactly that looks like.
And I think, you know, Ms. Patrice, I love the fact that you are sharing and you being transparent and honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. And that is, you know, you're clear about your why. And that's great, right? And so I think it goes back to, you know, if this person starts to pursue you or they want to be in your life, you're at peace without their presence. But if they want to be in your life and they don't really have that clarity, the only thing we want to encourage you to do is leave people without excuse.
Exactly.
You don't have to even have a phone conversation. But sometimes if they're like, look, like, I really want to know what happened. Are you still holding on to that? Are you still holding on to the grudge? No, you over there free in your own space. But gotcha. You know what? They don't have clarity.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes Patrice, you can write them that letter and just say, hey, this is how I experienced you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how I regularly experience you. And I am not willing to experience you in that way anymore.
Yeah, so Miss Patrice actually clarified. So this is a person that she was in a romantic relationship with. I see what you did, Miss Patrice. So Miss Patrice, when she say I'm your sister, you know how y'all do when you no longer have access to certain things and certain part of the relationship, you know, hey brother, you know, it's like brother. Yeah, so now she's his sister. I got you now. Absolutely. But no, that is absolutely important that you with this particular individual that you establish exactly what are those parameters of interaction look like, because people will often push against those boundaries.
Absolutely.
Especially when they haven't been clearly established. And they will also push to see how serious you are about what it is that you say you will not accept.
You will be
especially when they're used to interacting with you in a certain way and having certain benefits. When those things are now no longer on the table, they will see exactly how much you mean that. And if there is any type of crack in that or any type of hesitancy or wavering in it, they will be sure to push against it.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, it is a very powerful thing. First of all, I'm glad because most clients do need to have, you do have to have that degree of separation for a period of time when it's new and it's fresh.
Yes.
I think when it comes to recovery work, your forgiveness work is an individual work, right? If this person if you want to restore the relationship, you want to recover, right? Then the forgiveness journey does need to start. And one thing that we can encourage you all tonight is to really go through those things that we mentioned. What was one of the worst offenses that you ever yourself, like, you did that. You said that, you went there, you did this. And what was it like to be forgiven when you absolutely, like, I wouldn't forgive myself for doing this, but somebody else did. I want you to revisit that process, right? And then we want you to think about somebody that you actually, the most difficult thing you've ever forgiven. And I mean, you really forgave them because you were tested and you passed the test. So you know that, not that it's fresh and, oh, yeah, I forgave them, but no, you haven't had any triggers. You haven't had any encounters with them. Like, you've been in the room with your violator or somebody who abused you or somebody who, took the life of a person you love. Like, there is something that, I'm going to drop this little nugget. If you want to really hear some amazing, radical forgiveness stories, go to theforgivenessproject.org. Tons of stories, hundreds of stories about people and their forgiveness journey. And we might highlight one or two of them in upcoming weeks. Because guess what? Yeah. We're not going to stop.
No, we can't.
We're going to go deeper and deeper into forgiveness. We only dropped a few nuggets tonight. We want you to tune in the next upcoming weeks. We're going to talk about some of those deep family and some of those other areas of forgiveness.
Absolutely. So everyone, thank you all so much for tuning in to Before I Do tonight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and book us for a session at couplesacademy.org. We would love to partner with you in your partnership or relationships, but also in your individual journey as well. And as Charmaine mentioned, we will be back next week to talk more about forgiveness. So everyone, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Before I Do. We'll see y'all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.